All right, y'all. First and foremost, give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and his son Hamashiach, who some call Yahushua, Yeshua, Yehoshua, Yashayah. We mostly know as Jesus Christ. Funny, I found where y'all been getting some of these new names from, man. I'm gonna speak on it. Some of these other understandings on the name thing, but y'all willing to be the next video. Y'all when I get done with this one, then we'll do the next one. It's gonna be a very quick video, y'all. Fullness of the Gentiles. How do I understand fullness of the Gentiles? I'm gonna take you through my methodology. Pray this thing be edifying. We'll start at Genesis 15:16. He says, but in the fourth generation they shall come thither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. The iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. What's not full? The iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. What does that mean? What does that mean? All right, we should know. Look at a little comparative text. Amorites have not yet reached its full measure. The sin of the Amorites has not reached its full measure. The sins of the Amorites do not yet warrant their destruction. All right, it's a certain point that the sins have to get to before, Israel goes in there and they have to get destroyed. Well, I'll read a few more. The iniquity of the Amorites not yet complete. Iniquity not yet full. Iniquity of the Amorites not yet complete. Iniquity of the Amorites not yet complete. Not yet complete. Not yet complete. Finish. Sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. All right, we get it. We get it. Okay. All right. These sins they haven't sinned enough. The sins haven't built up enough to the point where the Most High is going to destroy them, but he knows this is going to happen. All right, so he done lined up everything. All right, hint. Let's go now to Luke 21. All right, we're trying to get to the fullness of the Gentiles. What does that mean? What does the fullness of the Gentiles mean? Luke 21, we want to go down here to it's this 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down until the times of the Gentile be fulfilled. Okay. First, Genesis 15, we had till the sins of the iniquities of the Amorites, or the sins of the Amorites be full. Luke 21:24, we have until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. All right, one is iniquity and sin. One is times. Let's look at some comparative that just see let's see what we're saying here. What was that? Luke 21:24. Will be trampled by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Trampled down by the Gentiles until the period of the Gentiles comes to an end. Until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. 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 Time. Jewish Jerusalem will be overrun by foreign nations until their time comes to an end. All right, it's a time frame here in Luke 21. Let's look at Romans 11. This is where we gonna get the fullness of the Gentiles. All right, we got the time of the Gentiles, and we seen the prophecy with the sins of the Ammonites, the Amorites, reaching a certain point. This fullness is something reaching a particular point. We got to figure out what that something is. One thing we seen it was a sin. The next verse, Luke 21, we seen it was the time. We're in Romans 11. All right, it's the last chapter. And you see here it says, I say then, verse 1, has God cast away his people? Why is he saying that? Because he just said something that sounded like God done cast away his people. But he says lie. He says God forbid. Or lo. He says God forbid. For I am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham of the tribe of Benjamin. God have not cast away his people which he foreknew. And then he goes into the prophecy of Elijah, where he's left a remnant. Elijah's complaining about he is. Yeah, man, you know what? There was only a free. And then we see here how Paul is using the scriptures. Is he saying, oh, well, this is fulfilling this and da da? No, he's using this as an example of how the people are at that moment. Don't worry about it. Just like in the days of Elijah, when he said he interceded to the Lord and he said, hey, man, you know what? I feel like I'm all alone. And the Lord said, no, I got a certain amount of thousands that have not bowed down to Baal Peor. I got a remnant. Paul's using a verse to correlate something to modern times. All right, and we have to look at how, we have to start examining how the apostles are using these verses and quoting these verses. And I don't think nobody quotes more Old Testament than Paul. And we need to look at how he's using these verses, but that's, for further study. All right, we're going to keep this plain Jane. And sorry, I just had to get to that point there. Where we at? Okay, verse 11. It says, I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? Who is the they? The they is Israel. Have Israel stumbled that they should fall? God forbid. But rather, nope, that ain't what we wanted, but we'll continue to read it. But rather, through their fall, this is what we at. This is what we want. Let me start off. He says, I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? Yes. He's talking about Israel. Have they stumbled that they should fall? God forbid. But rather through their fall, salvation is come unto the Gentiles. Okay. Whose fall? All right. Through whose fall? Israel's fall. Salvation is come to the Gentiles. All right. For to provoke them to jealousy. Who are the Gentiles coming in? What do the Gentiles coming in do? It provokes them to jealousy. Now, watch this, verse 12. Now, if the fall of them, who is the fall of them? The them, who is the them? It's Israel. Be riches of the world. And the diminishing of them, who is the them? Israel. Be diminishing of them the riches of the Gentiles, how much more their fullness? Who is the there? Their fullness. Whose fullness? Their fullness. Who is the there? Israel. All right. And so what are we saying this fullness is? Well, we see it has to be the opposite of this. The fall and the diminishing has to be the fullness has to be the opposite of that. Whatever the fullness is, it has to be the opposite of fall and diminishing. Now, what's the fullness here? It's there. Whatever we saying that there is, that's the fullness. How much more their fullness? Let's look at this. Let's continue the thing rolling. What was that? 11, 12. 11 Romans 11:12. Was that 12? That ain't my search bar either. Hold on. Romans 11:12. How much greater riches their inclusion bring. How much greater a blessing the world would share when they finally accept it. Who is they? Finally accepted? Israel. How much more would their full inclusion mean? Who is the inclusion? Who's the there? Israel. How much more greater riches will their fullness bring? How much more their fullness? How much more their fullness? How much more their fullness? How much more will their fulfillment be? Fulfillment be? Fullness be? reinstatement be. Fullness bring, full number bring. Much more their fullness, even more by their full return. Let's go back. Let's look at this verse again. Now, if the fall of Israel be the riches of the world, and the diminishing of Israel the riches of the Gentiles, how much more the fullness? So if the Israel falling away was such a blessing to the Gentiles, it's going to be even more of a blessing to the Gentiles when they fully come in. All right, when they fullness comes in, when they come back, they're going to get an even greater reward. Or am I tripping, y'all? Am I tripping? Now the fall of them be the riches, of the world, the diminishing of them, the riches of the Gentiles. He said, how much more? How much more? Their fullness, meaning them coming back in. Who coming back in? Israel coming in, being reinstated. I liked it, that one. Reinstated back in. It's going to be even more of a blessing to the Gentiles. But I could be tripping, y'all. Y'all hit the comment. Let me know if I'm tripping. Let me know if I'm tripping. Let me go down because we only want this. We ain't gonna make this no long lesson. Hold on. We got to find the other fullness. We got to find the other fullness here. It's somewhere in here, y'all. Bear with me. It's somewhere in here. Where is it at? Am I tripping? I know doggone well. Here we go. Verse 25. Thank you, Lord. For I would not, brethren, that you should. Now remember what we read in verse 1. And if you go back to chapter 10, you know, read chapter 10 too. Read especially like the last half going into 11. Because understanding what we're reading in chapter 11, you know, about grafting in and a blindness and a falling and a diminishing happening to Israel, and something happening to Gentiles to provoke Israel to jealousy to try to get them back in, and even give Gentiles an even bigger, even better situation. So that, you know, the Gentiles shouldn't be getting in their feelings or upset about Israel coming back. You should be happy about it. Telling these Gentiles, man, you should be, you know, ecstatic about Israel coming back, being reinstated. Because if the diminishing of them, verse 25, it says, for I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part has happened to Israel. Blindness in part, not all of Israel, but blindness in part has happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. What is Romans 11 about? It's about being grafted in. Grafted into this tree. That some of Israel has been broken off. To the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. Whatever we saying the fullness is, in verse 12, how much more their fullness, how much more Israel's fullness, it should be similar in verse 25. Until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. Meaning, because I don't want y'all to think, well, Brother Phoenix don't know what he's talking about. I don't sometimes, y'all. I don't be knowing nothing, man. We got the Gentiles come in. We got the this will last only until the full number of the Gentiles come to Christ. Until the fullness of the Gentiles come in. Gentiles come in. Gentiles may come in. Gentiles be come in. Fullness of the Gentiles come in. Fullness of them come in. Come in. Come in. Come in. Come in. Come in. We got mostly come in. Yeah, here the minds of some Israelites have become closed until all God's non-Jewish people are included. But will last only until the complete number of Gentiles comes to God. Stubbornness has come in part to Israel until the full number of Gentiles come to faith. Come in, 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 come in. All right, y'all. That the blindness in part has happened to Israel until when? To the fullness of the Gentiles come in. Come in what? Come into this tree. All right, come into the knowledge of Christ. Come into, into the faith of Christ. All right. And so all Israel shall be saved. As it is written, there shall come out of Zion a deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. For this is my covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sins. According to the gospel, they are enemies for your sakes. But as touching the election, they are beloved of the Father's sake. All right, so this is a tool to get Israel, back. But also, there's a blindness happening to Israel, a stubbornness happening to Israel until that full number comes in. And I'm gonna tell y'all something. One of the greatest tools. I ain't gonna say greatest. Maybe a strong word. But one of the best tools to spread Israelism is a white person getting up here saying, you know what, y'all are the Israelites. When we get a Gentile up there and say, you know what, them the Israelites, right? That, man, I'm talking about everybody share it. So-and-so said, man, Dr. James White said we did. Man, Dr. Michael Brown said, man, what, the Israelites were black. He said, well, they weren't black, but they were boxwood. Ain't nothing stronger than that testament. Israel share that thing be on Facebook. It go Israel viral. Be all over the place when a Gentile says, man, this one video with a woman out there in the middle of the desert. She like, man, just come. She in the middle of Egypt, look like. Just come back home. Y'all come back home. We know that the blacks are the real Jews. Just come back home. Man, that video went viral so many times. Man, everybody know, man. Everybody know. Gentile know. We don't even know that. That's what this is in Romans 11. I pray this thing was edifying. Y'all be blessed. We'll see y'all on the next one. Shalom.